How to ride a Honda scooter.
First, select shirt pant combo.
We suggest this or this. Next, select appropriate shoes. We suggest 2.
Then choose a scooter that best expresses your individuality.
This is a 2006 Honda Elite 80. These bikes were very popular back in the 80s. You can watch some of the TV commercials from the 80s on YouTube as well. They were pretty cheesy. Brand new tires, just put them on. It's got a front trunk, which is kind of rare in scooters. And I will be comparing it to my Honda Elite as well. It's a pretty interesting bike. One thing that you'll note is that this is glass. Scooters and motorcycles these days are not made with the glass anymore. That's a high beam, not exactly bright, but it's got integrated turn signals. Let's see, look at that. Nice and bright, nice and big, very nice styling. It's very quiet, it is carbureted. Physically, the scooter is tiny, and it looks tiny on the road as well, but it's so darn cute, and it's so 80s style. You know, before I started working on this bike, I didn't realize that maintenance was a little bit of a pain in the ass, but it is a little bit of a pain in the ass, but you kind of get used to it. It's got a flat floorboard, so normally that's good to have because you can carry stuff here, but also you can put your feet high up. It's built into the bike, so not only you can ride it like this, or you can ride it a little bit more relaxed. Go ahead and pop open the trunk, which is a front trunk like a Tesla. Very cheap plastic. It actually kind of reminds me of a lawnmower, but inside here there is not much storage space. Unfortunately, this bike is not very practical for storage. I got the manual, I got the toolkit here, and it's nice that they actually Velcroed this onto this, and you have another little storage that's not even big enough to fit the manual on the side. So you can't put a lot of stuff here. You only have a storage compartment here for maybe books. I think maybe this was the perfect student sort of scooter back in the day. So people would put their books in the front, but that's pretty much the only thing that you could put there. In the front as well, you have some very easy to access electronics. You have all the wiring for the headlights, the blinkers down here, which is nice and convenient. I do wonder though if this is missing a cover. I'm not exactly sure because this one is actually in pretty good shape, but I do wonder if it is missing a cover. It seems like it would be, but it is nice that Honda made this so accessible. On one side you have a very shallow section where you can put like your toolkit, and then another shallow sections here. You could put books, your books for your science class or whatever here, but it's not very usable. You have to use the key to lock it. There we go. It is kind of funny that Honda echoed this vent sort of system of design throughout the entire bike. And it's got like a weird bumper as well. Almost resembles a car bumper, but this is all plastic. It's very flimsy, so if you ever hit the car or anything, this is going to be just completely broken. But this is a very interesting design cue because you will see this throughout the bike. Got the blinkers right up here, very large. They're integrated. They almost look like where the mirrors would be on a Honda SD1300. It's an SD1100. They're built into very similar styling. But of course, these are just the blinkers. The mirrors are up here. It uses a very strange suspension setup. And this is just a cover. There's nothing very special about this as a design, but you can see the vent sort of style. It echoes the front and throughout the bike. It also is a front drum brake and rear drum brake. So no disc brakes, but you really don't need it. Another thing I'll say about the wheel is that it's a 10-inch wheel. And with an 80cc, it almost feels like it's too fast for it. The Buddy 125 I had was a 10-inch wheel, and it kind of felt like a death trap. because that was a very fast scooter for what it was. You do have reflectors on both sides of the bike. This is kind of like a clunky, weird design that's not integrated. It kind of sticks out a little bit, but it is nice to have. You do have the capacity to carry a passenger, and this is a little unique to Honda. If you look at my Honda SH150, it uses a very similar design for the passenger. Now, I'm not really sure why you would want to take a passenger on this bike, because it is not exactly the best passenger bike. It's very short, but it is nice that they integrated it into the bike and didn't just give you like a perch like most bikes would do, or extended this out. So you can see that venting system design that Honda's doing. So this is the venting style, and there's another like vent system. There's no holes in here at all, so it doesn't like provide any air to the engine. And on the side is the same thing. It's got this sort of thing. It is a very simple design, but I think it kind of gives it a little bit of a sporty look. And there is the vents again. This is the vent. This actually goes through, so. And then there's the vent back here. There's the vents over here. So you can see that Honda decided to echo this design quite a bit. And that little hole right there, that is the exhaust. Tiny, absolutely tiny. This is another integrated vent that doesn't do anything, but it looks kind of cool from the rear. I do think that the front and the rear look good on this bike. So you have the integrated blinkers on each side. You have a reflector here. And then you have this weird brake light that seems to be something that Honda puts on like the XR650L. It's not good looking. I wish they had some weird design. It actually looks better if they made it integrated into the tail, or just a little bit rounder instead of this blocky, weird contraption. It seems like they gave up at this point when they were designing the bike. And it's not a big deal, but when you're designing an 80s bike, yeah, I guess I understand the angular design, but I do wish that they integrated it a little bit more, because they integrated the plates or the signals with everything else. Yeah, the turn signals, they just, there's this triangle sort of like design that goes this way, and then they're like, they get to here, it's like, okay, we're gonna make this kind of stick out. Have it like integrated a little bit better than using that design system. And of course, this has a very nice tail bag or tail rack, which you kind of need because there is no underseat storage on this bike. And it does have a nice grab rail, so you can kind of lift up the bike. This thing is so light, I believe it's 170 pounds, so it is lighter than most people in America. The seat is in extremely good shape. This bike has been kept extremely well, and it's very rare to find something with so little miles still around. Very good seat, very plush. So on the left side, you have you need to use the key to open up the seat, and it's a very nice system. You do have like this piece here. It seems like this piece was made just so you can kind of pull out. I'm not exactly sure the idea behind it, but if you're working on the bike, you have your air filter very hidden. And I think the reason they have this here is that you can kind of pull on the plastic a little bit in order to clear the air filter. So the air filter has got 2 screws at the bottom, and the bad design element of this is that they put another screw, but you can reach the screw for the air filter through here, so you can kind of manipulate that screw. Not a great system, but it does work. This bike has been scuffed up here, but it's kind of odd that they did give you this little handle here. Another handle is here. There's like a metal bar and nothing on the other side. So there's a metal bar here because you have a center stand, and this helps you pull up the bike. But normally I just grab it by the grab rail of the rack. So let's go ahead and open up the seat and check out the storage. Oh, look at this. No storage at all. Locking mechanism of the bike. It's a very robust system. And That's something I appreciate, because a lot of times there's cables running throughout. This is a very simple cable that runs over here. I don't think it's even a cable. It's just a rod. It's like a metal rod. Very interesting contraption. You have your gas tank. It's fairly large. This is the sending unit. And you do have a fuel gauge, which is, you know, rare in a lot of these smaller scooters. This is the gas cap. It's in pretty decent shape. That's the rack that I was talking, but very simple. This is the battery. Very easy to reach if you ever have some sort of starting problem. Now, this does not have a backup Kickstarter. It would be nice if they did have it. This is a nice touch by Honda. There's this red bit here that echoes the red of the plastic. I would think that Honda, to save money, would not even do this, but it is kind of nice. And you do have a little bit of a storage kind of like space in between here. So very nice. And it locks fairly easy. You can just lay it down a little bit. On the left side, you have the typical rear brake and all the stuff that you need. But the mechanism for the headlights is a little bit different. I've never seen this system on a bike. Even my 83 Honda Ascot had a standard. But to turn on the high beams, you just kind of push it up. And you have a typical turn signal indicator. You have a yellow horn button, which is it's not typical of the time, and it is kind of nice to have because it echoes the other side. On the right side, you have your throttle, you have your front brake, you have your kill switch. This, I have not seen this button. Typically, you have the same buttons running from company to company, but this is a 2006 and it's still using the old 80s style stuff. And you have this really large start button in yellows. And on the other side, you have a yellow button that is off to the side. So it doesn't really, it's not like an in and out, so it's more like a side sort of thing. When you're looking at the cockpit, why have this button to be square and this one a little bit off? Why not just make it the same so you can kind of level out the design? For the mirrors, look completely 80s. It's like a very large triangular sort of mirror, and I've never seen this design on bikes, but it does look kind of cool. And it's easy enough on this bike to mount a GPS or phone mount on here. So you're removing this bolt that tightens the mirror. You can put like a nice GPS here. My Elite 110 from 2010 does not have anything, so I do appreciate that. So hidden here behind the turn signal, the very clunky turn signal, this is a handbrake. And it's a really nice, I've seen this exactly on the Honda Grom, on the Honda Ruckus, I should say. Generally, you do not have like a big handbrake on these scooters. The new scooters use just like a tiny little lever that's not as nice to use. So that's a good feature to have. I really like that. So in the rear, you have the typical engine. This is an 80cc. You have drum brakes, and you can adjust your braking here. Typical, this is the same system even in Chinese scooters, but old antiquated looking engine or transmission, like this weird flat bar. But that's kind of like the 80s styling of making cases. The air filter is here, very inconvenient to reach. And you have the drain plug over there for the rear drive, so very simple system. Very flat. This is a very flat design. And when you look at the other bikes, you'll notice that there's a lot more integrated sort of design, but it's cool looking. This, by the way, only has 660 miles. That's right, not even 1,000 miles, so it didn't even do like the break-in properly. So you have over here on the left, the fuel gauge, which is nice to have. You don't have a way of resetting your trip. You do have a light for your engine oil. You have your turn signals up here. On the side, you have your high beam light. And then you have a very large speedometer that goes from 5 miles an hour, or 0 miles an hour, all the way to 55. You will never reach 55 miles an hour on this unless it's a very big downhill and you're just maxing it out. But you also don't want to be going that speed. Just put this in, turn it on, and you do have to hold the brake while starting. It is very quiet, and one thing you're going to notice is that the lights they're not that effective. This bike idles at, I think, 1700 RPMs. It is a little bit on the cold-blooded side. It is a little bit on the cold-blooded. It takes some time to warm up to temperature. I'm actually going to be changing the oil right now. And you can see like the RPMs have dropped a little bit. The RPMs have dropped a little bit and it's starting to idle a little bit more naturally. I do have the brake on, so let's go ahead and like put it on. If you give it gas, sometimes it does die in the beginning because it is such a cold-blooded bike. And of course, I didn't mention it, it is carbureted. I absolutely love the style of this bike. The 80s style is back and all the cool kids want the 80s style. Honda even had a flip-up headlight Honda Elite that I'm looking forward to trying out. And I would love to try and buy one. But these bikes are surprisingly rare. Now, my friend that bought this got a great deal on this bike, but I don't think it's possible these days to get a good deal on a scooter like this. For size comparison, I'm actually going to line up my Honda Elite next to it. It's exactly, this is the modern version of the Elite 80.
Where you go from there is entirely up to you.